Welcome to my ranking of Carcassonne's major expansions. So today, let's go through it. Oh, I don't have a title opening. So this is my ranking. If you are someone who is looking for, well, what do people think about the Carcassonne expansions? Well, this is one stop you can make because I've played through them all and I've got at least some kind of opinion on them. So let's get started. So let's start with our honorable mention, the one that only exists in the first edition, Catapult. The problem with the Catapult is they looked at a list of game mechanics, chose one, and tried to make it work. At least one of the possibilities made enough sense that we would always choose that one. Target hurling, so everyone would launch their meeple towards a target and whoever got closest would get 5 points. So we didn't have to mess around with other people's meeples, our meeples, anything like that. For us, the Catapult ended up being who would get 5 points, and that was it. So in terms of personal taste, the Catapult still would be my number 10 out of 11 had they brought it forward past the first edition. But I definitely see why it was not brought forward beyond the first edition. Dexterity was definitely the one to leave behind.
Number 10.
The Tower, the one I would rate below 10 if I could, but I can't. Thanks, Catapult, thanks. It's like the Tower is a mini expansion that ballooned out of control to the point where the rule set turned it into a major expansion. Sure, just add some more towers in there, make it another major expansion. What do I think of this expansion that should have stopped at like 6 tower pieces instead of 30? Let me say this. What's the point of an expansion that everyone avoids while using it? And what is the tower? The tower's a big old jerk, that's what he is. Meeple removal is one thing, but someone else ending up with your meeple is another thing entirely. It's like the opposite of gain a meeple, which makes me feel like the opposite of gain a meeple. Of course, it's going to have its fans, but this is my list and I don't like this expansion.
Number 9.
The Big Top. Nothing here really enhances the Carcassonne experience, it kind of just bolts itself onto it. People stack their meeples as a fidget thing, something to do between turns. It didn't have to be turned into a game mechanic. The circus isn't too bad. It's there. And hey, if you had the Ringmaster meeple, it can be used as another meeple, so at the very least, you would be able to have 8 meeples instead of 7. At least this expansion is a cute idea, so I don't hate it. So congratulations, Big Top. I don't hate you.
Number 8.
Bridges, castles, and bazaars. So I see the theory behind bridges. Roads connect to roads, but what if you could make your own road? And I expect there are people who base their whole strategies around being able to do so. It's just not that important to me. Castles. Look at the shape! It's a circle! Maybe we could do something with that! Yeah, okay. Like, maybe have it be a castle or something. Oh, yeah! And then 4-point cities can be castles! No! Only circles! I don't do skits. Do I? As I'm sure you'll notice, I have greater appreciation for games that play around with the core game mechanics rather than just throwing on something else. Speaking of, Bazaars! Draw a tile, auction. Draw a tile, auction. For me, stopping to do an auction just destroys the game flow. So, number 8 it is.
Number 7.
Hills and sheep. Speaking of just adding on another game mechanic, push your luck! At least it's not as out of place as other bolted on mechanics, but maybe they could have figured out a less pasted on way to do it? Not that I'm capable of thinking of an example. Hills is finally something that makes sense within the realm I like, messing with the core mechanics, where normally if 2 players have equal meeples on a feature, they tie. Both players get all points. But What if there was something that could potentially break the tie? And vineyards is vineyards. Add more points to completed monasteries. Sure, I like the monastery mechanic. Finish a feature, get points for that, add on some more points to that. Why not? I like it.
Number 6.
Count, King, and Robber. I really like the river too. I like the fork, and I like that if you're playing with the dragon, it's already on the board when you start proper play. No messing with putting tiles back into the draw pile. Kings and Robber isn't bad. It reminds me of the longest track card in Ticket to Ride. Bonus points. The Count puts meeples into features when they're completed to change the meeple count for when it gets counted. Sure, it's a little mess your opponents over, but you have to work for it. You have to give up meeples now for points elsewhere later. And the Cultists is my first encounter with a monastery-like feature that wasn't a monastery, but not the last. I like these types of features. I like the cult. Even if it gets built near a monastery, so only one of them scores points, it's usually not common enough to be that irritating.
Number 5.
Princess and Dragon. This is my it fits about here when I measure making sense and simply how much fun I think it is pick. The main feature being the dragon. The dragon is not unlimitedly going to move. He goes up to 6 tiles and stops. So it can mess with plans, but it doesn't feel like a total messing up plans, though some may disagree. The princess can remove a meeple from a city, which doesn't feel like enough. It's like half a mechanic, and I never remember about it when thinking about expansion mechanics. I prefer the way crop circles and festival mini expansions handled the meeple removal mechanic. Portals, though, there's my game mechanic highlight. Put a meeple on an unclaimed feature anywhere on the board, not just the tile you drew.
Number
Oh, also the fairy's here too. The fairy does not get my essential because you have to remember to use it. It prevents the dragon from going on that space, and you get a point if you still have it when it's your turn again. And adds 3 extra points to a completed feature.
Number 4.
Ghosts, castles, and cemeteries. My top 3 are my top 3. And this is the one that comes after those, you know? If you were a crazy person and only watched this video and did literally no other research and bought expansions based on this list alone, but then felt satisfied after the top 3 expansions, I get it. Enjoy your game. But if you're still saying, then have I got more for you. Actually, Hansam Gluck does. Mists over Carcassonne is the cooperative version of Carcassonne, but it's also the 11th major expansion, the first original expansion of the current 3rd edition. But using the components of a standalone game means it is far and away the largest expansion. This doesn't just add 12 to 30 tiles, it adds 60 tiles. I'll start with what excites me the most about this one. The cemeteries and guards. Talk about messing with the core mechanics. In Carcassonne, you get 7 meeples to play with. And like I said, you can get another one with the Ringmaster, and the Phantom is a must-have in my opinion, but that's outside of major expansions. But what if you could gain more? Complete a cemetery, and that could be you. You then need to decide if messing with the mist to add ghosts to yours or an opponent's meeple is worth it to you. It's fine with me, but not a must-have mechanic. And mists around castles work pretty much the same as vineyards around monasteries, which, again, giving more points for monastery-like features is just grave-y. Which is a pun that I think works better when talking about the cemeteries.
Number 3.
Traders and builders. I'm not the biggest fan of the goods, but I know they are thought of very highly in the Carcassonne community. But I do wonder, If goods had come out in, say, the 9th expansion, if people weren't so used to them so early on in Carcassonne's life, if they would be as lauded. The builder, though, I throw my own hat into the lauded ring. Whatever that's supposed to end up meaning. It is another fantastic mechanical mess around. You only get 1 turn. But what if you got 2 turns? That has potential to be argued to be better than having more meeples. I don't think I would be the one doing the arguing on that side, but I could see the argument. And you've even got pigs to increase field scoring. And the extra nice thing about that is you could have a pig in a field and you're tied with an opponent for control of the field. But if you're the only one with a pig in that field, you're getting more points per city. 4 instead of the 3 your pigless opponent is getting.
Number 2.
Inns and cathedrals. The word of the day, or I suppose this expansion, is double. And who doesn't like double the what's-its? The Inns and Cathedrals expansion almost feels like this is how the game was originally designed until someone said, hey, just release a super simple version of this game first. And if it, I think the German word for it is slaps, give people the option to add these inns and cathedrals themselves. And I generally don't necessarily like added mechanics, but this double or nothing mechanic works for me. It's my list, I'll like whatever I want. And the large meeple is so simple, and of course with what I've already been saying, obvious. What if double, without the threat of or nothing? Hey look, another meeple, and it's worth double, my number 2.
Number 1.
Abbey and Mayor. It's not that this is easily my number 1, it's just that all the other ones have to come after it. If you're just looking for the more Carcassonne experience in a single expansion, you've got it right here. What if you had a tile that would fill in a hole no matter what the sides were? What if you had a figure that you had the possibility of moving to a nearby unfinished feature rather than just pulling it off completely? What if we did something with these shields besides just giving more points? And what if you could score farmers before the end of the game? That's it. That's my ranking of Carcassonne's major expansions. What about you? If someone new to Carcassonne was scouring YouTube, what would you say? Put it in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Have fun. And for anyone following along, the Mega Carc ranking series will continue. There's a lot of mini expansions to still get through.